How you going, man?
Good, thanks, John. Yourself, mate?
I'm really awesome.
Yep, gearing up for the Australian Open that starts on Sunday. Can't wait for it, John.
Yep, and the draw was dropped, which is good.
Yep.
You put in the notes that it should be dropped at 1 p.m. and it was dropped. So we can go over what the Aussies are doing and some of the other exciting matchups.
Yep.
Looks like Alex de Minaur has the hardest opening
Does
match.
he? Right. So, do we know who he's playing in the first round?
He will be
John?
playing Milos Raonic.
Okay, that's not at all a good matchup for him. As a player, I mean, there's never anything been wrong with Alex de Minaur's fighting spirit, not at all. But I guess the issue for him has always been that he doesn't have a big weapon in his game, and Milos Raonic is the opposite. He's got a weapon of a serve. Milos Raonic made the Wimbledon final in 2016, so that just shows how good a server he is. And to be honest, John, that's my heart has sort of sunk as you've just revealed that to me 30 seconds ago, that he's got to play against Raonic first up.
Yeah, former world number 3 against current world number 10.
It's not the well, given that de Minaur is obviously seeded, that's just about as bad a first round matchup as he could have, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's I would say it's the worst seeded matchup. Seeded, because once you're seeded, you don't get another seeded person, top 10. So he's got actually out of that top 10. Where did my sheet go? Oh, god damn it! Out of the top 10, he's got the hardest matchup.
The problem is, and I know Raonic, while he had that success back in 2016 at Wimbledon, he hasn't, and I guess this is the upside for de Minaur going into that match is Raonic hasn't had a lot of tennis recently. So if you're going to get you're a lot more likely to get Raonic on an off day now than you would have been back in about 2016 when he was. I'd say at that point you'd have to say he was at his peak. He was making Wimbledon finals. But the problem for de Minaur is that the racket's now been taken out of his hand. Now the match is not on his racket; it's entirely on Raonic's racket. And there is every chance that Raonic could have an off day with his serve, John.
You would hope so.
Absolutely. And de Minaur's going to need that to happen now. I did a fair bit of research on de Minaur before the draw came out, John. As you said, the draw was only announced a matter of 90 minutes ago.
Yep.
So, he had that really good lead-up in the United Cup, beat Taylor Fritz, Novak Djokovic and Alexander Zverev, who, are all top 10 players. Well, Fritz was a top 10 player at that time. De Minaur has now actually replaced him in the top 10. But Fritz was in the top 10 at that time. And de Minaur becoming the first Australian to enter the top 10, the men's top 10, since 2006, Leighton Hewitt. Pat Rafters actually even said that he thinks de Minaur could go all the way to the final. But I'm just not buying that, John.
I was just looking at, so his run to the final would be Raonic first. Then if he gets through that, it becomes kind of easier. So the likely path would be Matteo Arnaldi in round 2, Nicola Jarry round 3, then either Sebastian Korda or Andrei Rublev. And then the quarterfinal becomes ridiculous.
Then we're entering another realm in the quarterfinal, aren't we? So that fourth round against Korda or Rublev. Yeah, so I think if he can get past Raonic, you'd have to think he's a strong chance of getting through to the fourth round given that path. But I wouldn't be guaranteeing that he'd go further than Korda or Rublev.
Then after that, he's got Sinner
in the quarters, is that right?
TFO or Kachanov.
Right, okay.
And then the semi-final is either Djokovic or Tsitsipas.
Well, this is the thing, John. I'd put Djokovic, Alcaraz, Sinner, Medvedev, Zverev, and Rune all ahead of him straight off the bat. Straight off the bat, those are the top 6 favourites with the bookmakers. I'd put all of them ahead of him to start off with, and then we look at Raonic is first up. And then even if he gets through that, we've got Sebastian Korda, who, again, he's another big server. So he's going to pose the same problem to de Minaur that Raonic will, in that he'll take the racket out of his hand. Or Andrei Rublev, and that would be even worse. Rublev is probably one of the best players in the world not to have won a major at this point. So I just don't get, and I know obviously Pat Rafter's going to be a better judge than me, of course, John, but I just don't get where he's coming from with saying that he could be a chance of making a final. I mean, he's only made one Grand Slam quarterfinal before in his career.
Yeah.
Until all of a sudden, and I know he's worked his way into the top 10, but he just lacks that big weapon that all of these players I've mentioned have in their game, in their arsenal.
If he's going to get through the quarterfinals against Sinner, Tiafoe or Kachanov, and then he's going to be relying on Novak Djokovic getting knocked out earlier than the semi-finals or having to play Novak Djokovic. Making the finals.
There's a lot of dominoes that would have to fall for him to make the final.
Like, do you really think... Well, he just beat Novak.
He did, but let's be honest, Djokovic wasn't going full pelt in that match.
And so, that's what I mean. If he was actually to get through, say, Sinner in the quarterfinals, right, he'd then have to undoubtedly play Djokovic. But it could be Tsitsipas.
Yeah, if you want to win it, you're going to have to beat Djokovic to win it.
Yeah. And then the finals, if he was to actually get through that semi-finals, which would involve him beating Novak Djokovic or Stefanos Tsitsipas, it would then be Alcaraz, Medvedev, Zverev, or Holger Rune for the finals. That relies on Novak Djokovic not making the Australian Open final. That's that is actually like the main thing that makes Rafter's statement that he could make a final not right, because he has to get through Novak Djokovic. It relies on Djokovic not making a final. In the Australian Open. Does anybody see Novak Djokovic not making a final in the Australian Open? Nobody sees that. So
and I mean, a lot of the time you compare de Minaur's game style to Leighton Hewitt, but I think the difference is that Hewitt had that speed where even if he played against someone who could hit him off the court, he'd chase everything down. He was like Speedy Gonzalez, like the road runner. I think that's the difference between Hewitt and de Minaur. Hewitt, it wouldn't matter how hard the ball was coming over the net, Hewitt had the speed in the legs to get to it. Whereas I don't think de Minaur's as quick as Hewitt.
No.
I guarantee you Hewitt, when he was in high school or whatever, he would have won like state titles, 100 metre, 200 metre sprint, distance running, whatever. But I don't see de Minaur having quite... I'm not saying that he's slow by any means, but Hewitt was able to win majors on the back of his speed alone. And I don't think you could put de Minaur in that category.
De Minaur's only 24, so like yesterday he also beat Carlos Alcaraz in his lead-ups. They had a charity exhibition match and he beat Alcaraz.
Right, okay.
So now he's beaten the world number 1, 2, 6 and 12.
Yeah, I mean he's done everything he could do in preparation, John.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as I say, he's only made that one Grand Slam quarterfinal. That was at the US Open back in 2020. So, when it gets down to it, when you look at everything we've just looked at, all the players in front of him, the obstacles that he now has on his draw path, to be honest, John, I think he will, as much as I'm nervous about this first round against Raonic, I think he'll find a way through because Raonic just doesn't have the tennis in him at this point.
Yeah.
I'm much less optimistic about that fourth round where he's going to run into Korda or Rublev most likely. And then even if he gets through that, then there's obviously, as the further you get, the harder it's going to get. There's more obstacles in his way after that, John. So
and Djokovic especially doesn't lose to the same person twice as well, let alone whether it's in a Grand Slam.
Yeah, and especially, I mean...
That's what I mean. It's going to rely on someone else beating Djokovic before the quarterfinals.
Yeah, he'd need someone else to take Djokovic out.
Yeah. Before the semis.
He needs someone else to just play the match. It can happen. Somebody plays the match of their life and beats Djokovic at the Australian Open. Stan Wawrinka did that. many years ago. Shock Djokovic beat him at the Australian Open. I think that was the year Wawrinka won it, actually, in 2014.
Yeah.
There was someone else I think it was Dennis Isterman as well, when Djokovic went off the boil a bit, beat Djokovic at the Australian Open. But not many players can do it, John. He's won it 10 times, and he's won it 10 times for a reason. Apart from beating Rafael Nadal at the French Open, it's the second hardest assignment in tennis, is beating Djokovic at the Australian Open. So I mean, he's the shortest price favourite with the bookies, John, and it's no surprise.
Of course.
He's the overwhelming favourite to take this out. Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you know what de Minaur's currently paying?
So John, to be honest, I got locked out of all the betting sites, so I only saw the top 6 favourites. So if you want to just bring that up now, we can see where he is.
Look. We're actually checking an error with tennis right now. There's a big issues with tennis actually all over the place right now, because even the Australian Open website is down while they're updating it. So unfortunately on the SmartB website we don't have the Australian Open odds.
Yeah, and I checked one of the betting sites, and betting was suspended, John, on the Australian Open. So
they still are.
Yeah.
It's while the draw is being done. Because even Novak Djokovic's first round match isn't announced, you know.
Yeah.
It's he's got Novak Djokovic has got a still waiting for a qualifier. He's marked down as playing a qualifier, because the qualifiers are still on right now.
Yeah.
So the draw is mostly drawn, but not all the way drawn. So that's why betting is suspended at the moment. And Australian Open website is down while they update it, obviously. So
so I looked at the betting odds much earlier this morning, John. And the top 6 favourites are Djokovic, Alcaraz, Sinner, Medvedev, Zverev, and Rune. So I'm not sure exactly where de Minaur sits, but he sits outside the top 6. So
unfortunately we can't check. Well, by Monday we'll have it. And we also still don't know what day they'll play. Actually.
At this stage we don't, because the schedule usually gets announced the day before.
Yeah.
And we should also mention that this year, for anyone interested, it's an earlier start. Normally it would start on the Monday. This year it's starting on the Sunday. So there's an extra day of the Australian Open this year. So I'd imagine what's going to happen is the first round will take place on Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. So as you say, we don't know what day the matches are on as yet. And we won't know until the day before those matches.
Saturday.
So on Saturday, we'll know what the Sunday matches are, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
John, there's some other Australians.
13 men, 5 women.
So, John, my research was done before. Obviously, the draw's only just been done, so my research was done before. I've had a chance to have a look at the draw, but John, I believe John Millman is still in the hunt with qualifying. I believe he's still going through qualifying. Yep. This is the last tournament of his career. He's 34 years of age, gonna retire at the end of the summer. This is the only Australian this century to beat Roger Federer at a Grand Slam. So there you go. That's a nice feather in his cap. That's a nice story that he can tell the grandkids for sure, John. A few issues with Alexei Popyrin and Thanasi Kokkinakis. Looking at a couple of the other men here, John. Popyrin withdrew from the Adelaide International on Monday with a glute injury. That's a concerning sign. He's at number 43 in the world, John.
Yep. He'll be playing Mark Polmans, who's a wild card.
Okay, yep.
And Kokkinakis will be playing Sebastian Offner in the opening round.
Okay, yeah, so Kokkinakis is going through a bit of a form slump, and he's blamed some soft tennis balls, if you can believe. So it's apparently...
There's a big thing about it now.
Right, okay.
Nick Kyrgios and Novak Djokovic have been pretty vocal about it for the past week. The changing of the balls every year or every week or whatever, because they're talking about how it's causing wrist injuries. And that's what happened to Novak Djokovic's wrist. It was caused by different balls. The balls they use at the Australian Open apparently lose their bounce very quickly. So they start out good and then very quickly die. So, but Kokkinakis is one of the Kyrgios crew. So I don't know how much. I don't put much faith in Kokonakis having actually any real feedback. It just seems to me like he's following the Nick Kyrgios, the balls are bad news story.
Yeah, he lost at the Adelaide International on Monday night. Lost in 3 sets to Dusan Lajovic. So his form's not great going in, John. Hopefully he can sort it out.
But yeah, actually, apparently, he just announced today there's going to be something about the balls done for this Australian Open because of Kyrgios and Djokovic's complaints.
Yeah, and Kokonakis, by the looks of it, maybe.
Well, that's Kokonakis jumping on the Kyrgios.
Jordan Thompson's another one, John.
So he's got Alexander Vukic.
Okay.
Opening round.
So he also had a bit of an issue in the lead up, John. Lost to Italian Lorenzo Musetti at the Adelaide International. And I think and that was after he beat Rafael Nadal in Brisbane as well, but suffered a leg injury in that loss to Musetti. So there's a few issues for the Aussie men, John. Apart from de Minaur, there's not really anyone else going in with any great confidence at this stage. So hopefully they can sort it out, John.
Yeah.
But it's not looking too good at the moment.
It's 13 men announced so far and 5 women. There are still some wild cards. I just said Millman. We're waiting to see if Millman gets in.
Gets through qualifying, yep.
So it doesn't look like much else. There's your 13 announced men so far, and your 5 announced
Chris
men.
O'Connell's there, James Duckworth. Anybody else there of note? Max Purcell's there. He's going to play against a qualifier.
Yep.
Rinky Hijikata against Jan Leonard Struve. That's probably about it for the men, John.
Yeah. Well, look, there you go. Christopher O'Connell just beat half an hour behind. Sorry, Sebastian Korda. That was his qualifier. That's how he got in. All right. So
what does that mean for Korda then? Does that mean? Sorry. I thought Korda was. I'm not sure why Korda would be going through qualifying.
Don't know. He beat him. So Christopher O'Connell beat Sebastian Korda in the Adelaide International.
Oh, sorry. It wasn't qualifying. Sorry. Yeah, Adelaide International.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So Korda will very much be at the Australian Open, and he is in de Minaur's way there, as you've said, John.
Yeah, that's right. So
on his path to the round of 16.
It's going to be a very interesting time, but yeah, hopefully de Minaur can do well. He's our great.
Yeah, he's with Ash Barty retired now.
Yeah,
he's our great hope for the Open for sure.
And yeah, there's nothing very much in the women actually, to be honest.
Interestingly, John, the Australia's number 1 female player, Arina Rodionova, was overlooked for a wild card into the tournament. She's ranked 105, Australia's best ranked female player, overlooked for Daria Saville. So Daria Saville's got the nod, but she's ranked 195, so 90 places worse than Rodionova.
It's because Daria has more people following her on Instagram. I'm sure of it.
So she's popular on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she is showing form. Saville, she beat Sophia Kenin, who I think won the Australian Open previously. Yeah, Sophia Kenin. So, 2020 Australian Open champion Sophia Kenin. Yeah, so Daria Saville beat her on Wednesday night to reach the quarterfinals of the Hobart International. I'm not sure where that's at, John, but she did win that match on Wednesday night over Sophia Kenin. So it's a good form there for Daria Saville.
That Sophia Kenin's going to be playing world number 1 Iga Swiatek on opening round as well.
Okay, that's not a good start for Sophia Kenin then, John. But then again, not a good start for Iga Swiatek either. She wouldn't want to be playing a former champion in Sophia Kenin in the first round either. So that's that, John. Isla Tomljanovic is another one to watch out for. She slipped in the rankings, John, because she's...
Down to 33?
In the ranking?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think she...
Oh, no, sorry.
Her rankings are much...
What is the 33 seed?
33...
No, because she says... Yeah.
Oh, I think what it is, John, is she's not seeded It could be something to do with her protected ranking. It could be something to do with that because she's been out injured.
Yeah.
Because she's the only non-wildcard Aussie in the women's main draw. Successful comeback from injury, that knee injury. She was out for 10 months due to knee surgery. Yeah. She's best known for ending, which I like, John. She ended Serena Williams' career at the 2022 US Open. Yeah. I like that because I'm no fan of Serena Williams. That's for
great to do it in the US as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's going to be playing Petra Martic in the opening round.
Always worth keeping an eye on Isla Tomljanovic as well. Even though she's been out for a while, she's one who could do some damage if she's given a favourable enough draw. Even though she hasn't had much tennis, she partnered de Minaur at the United Cup, which has just been completed with Australia making the semi-finals there. So,
there's not as many women in women's tennis in Australia seems to be not going that well.
Losing Ash Barty so early was disappointing, but these things happen, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. But we'll keep up. We'll be following it for the next couple of weeks. The Australian Opens. We'll see how we go. Hopefully, as I said, de Minaur can make it through something. Some of the other guys can push for something, and hopefully Millman qualifies. When are we going to know if Millman qualifies?
Well, I think John. I think qualifying finishes up today, being Thursday. So I'm hopeful that we'll know by the end of today whether Millman's got through.
Yep, so he will play...
Malkin. Yeah.
World number 14. Is he the world number 14 or is it 14?
He'd be the 14th seed in qualifying. Yeah.
At 4:15 today, he'll play.
Yeah, okay. So we'll know by the end of today.
Yeah.
If John Millman's got through, hopefully he gets through, John. It'd be great to see him get into the main draw, and it'd be a fitting send-off for him.
He could be the one who has to play Djokovic in the opening round.
It was funny. He beat Federer at that 2018 US Open, and there was another year where, I can't remember the exact year, but he pushed Federer all the way at the Australian Open as well. I think Federer beat him in a match tiebreaker in the fifth set. It might have been 10-8 or something in the fifth set in that match tiebreaker. So it's weird. There's just something about Millman's game that was awkward for Federer. He just matched up well against Federer. So, you'd never
it could be
write him off from causing an upset.
Could be like that movie, the one with Kirsten Dunst and what's his name? Jarvis Vision from, I don't know the actor's name, where he's about to it's about the tennis players and he's about to retire and then he goes on to win Wimbledon. I can't remember the name of the movie. It could be John Millman's thing, he announces his retirement and then goes on to win the Australian Open. Hopefully. But no, it's highly unlikely. Movies aren't real life. The movie was called Wimbledon.
There you go.
Yeah. There is some news. Our best friend Donald Trump, the tennis player, has been copying it on social media over a Nadal tweet.
Yes. So John, I'm actually with Nick Kyrgios on this one. As the social media morons have been at it again. All he did, John, was after Nadal pulled out of the Australian Open, all he posted was, "Feel for Rafa, man. Get better soon." That was the fear for me as well, coming back a little too soon. I didn't think there was a lot wrong with that, John. And then, so there's people on social media giving it to him saying, someone said, "No one is surprised that you made this tweet about you." And someone else wrote, "Is there anything you won't be making about yourself?" I'll tell you what, by Nick Kyrgios' standards, that's as good a tweet as you're going to get. So, if you're going to bag him for what he wrote there, you're going to bag him for everything.
I think that's clutching at straws by social media trolls, but it is sad that Nadal got out. We discussed it on Monday, and it's nice that Nick Kyrgios actually said something nice about another tennis player.
Yes, and given that he hasn't had the best relationship with Nadal in the past,
or anyone,
but particularly Nadal and Djokovic, he had it in for them for a while, and then when Djokovic got deported a couple of years ago, and that whole farce that went on,
that was ridiculous. Yeah.
for some reason at that point Kyrgios warmed to Djokovic, and now they've got a bit of a bromance going on. But yeah, he still had this prickly relationship with Nadal, so to get this tweet out of him means that, he might finally be moving on from these feuds that he created himself.
He might have gone through some media training where he's been told you actually have to be friends with the tennis players to get better commentary and stuff. So you can get better information. So now he has to try and mend all the bridges that he's broken.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot that he'd have to mend.
He's got to work on it for a while. But that'll be his life for the next however many years, because he's not going to. Well, who knows if he'll ever come back.
He may never play again, John.
Yeah.
There's every chance that he won't play again.
But he is commentating at the Australian Open alongside Boris Becker.
Yeah, so it was interesting, John. So they're both been signed up by Eurosport to commentate at the Australian Open. And there was some speculation that they might actually be together in commentary, which would have made for some very interesting viewing. But Becker's actually said that Kyrgios obviously is going to be based in Melbourne when he does the commentary, but Becker's going to be based in Munich in Germany. So
okay,
so he's going to be part of their coverage from overseas. So they're not going to be together in the studio. There might be a situation where Becker's in one studio and they're sort of crossing to Melbourne in another studio where Kyrgios is there, but they're not actually going to be in the same room together, John. So sorry to pour cold water on what might have been an interesting blow-up, very awkward situation.
I really wonder what would happen. Maybe they'll just be throwing to each other. I don't know about these commentary. It's the modern world now where the commentary is done from remote locations. I don't think the commentary. I find the commentary is never as good if it's done from a remote location.
Yeah,
tennis is a little bit different.
Cross-cutting, right?
Yeah, tennis is a little bit different because it's not like they do play-by-play commentary. That'd be kind of boring. Anyway, he hit it back. He hit it.
Oh, have you ever heard tennis on the radio? It's very interesting, John.
Oh my God!
It's not really a radio sport.
No, not at all. No. But yes, I would hope that Kyrgios gets some good practice in this commentary, and then in the next Australian Open, he's actually in the mainstream media, which would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I think he's a lot more likely to be doing that than he is to be playing again anytime soon, John.
He's never going to play tennis again. Naomi Osaka, who is taking on number 16 seed Caroline Garcia first up, has pulled out of a charity match prior to the event. I don't know how to say.
Yeah, so it's against Emma Raducanu, John. Yeah, so that's all right. So so they were supposed to have a charity match on Tuesday at Rod Laver Arena. Osaka's won. She's a 4-time Grand Slam champion. Raducanu won the US Open in 2021. I think she's only 21 years of age, so she was very young when she won the US Open. So yeah, they were meant to take part in this exhibition match, John, but Osaka pulled out. She came down sore after a Brisbane International return after more than a year out of competition. And Donna Vekic was supposed to be Osaka's replacement in the match, but then Raducanu withdrew as well. She also felt some soreness after training the day before. But the match was cancelled very late, John. So a lot of people had already made the journey and gone into the stadium and had found out the hard way that the match wasn't actually taking place. I've got to be honest, John, I think once you agree to sign up to a charity match, you got to commit to it. If you're not sure if you're going to be right for it, then just don't commit to it. If you think there's a chance that you go, oh, look, it might be a bit of a bridge too far for me, I'm playing other lead-up events, I don't really want to risk it, well then, all right, just don't commit to it in the first place. Yeah. But you can't commit to it and then pull out at the last minute, leaving fans left wanting.
That sucks because it's not only for the fans, but also the charity that they were raising money for now misses out on all that money because of the end of the event not happening. And
because everybody's been refunded, so no money for the charity.
The Australian Open is like we refer to the Australian Open as the competition that starts on Sunday, but all the qualifiers, these charity matches and stuff like that, it's like a big festival in Melbourne for almost a month. really. And these are the kind of things that people travel for. I mean, you may have even had some people who are travelling into the city or from another state or something to go for that chance to go watch Naomi Osaka, because they know they're not going to be able to afford the Australian Open tickets, which are ridiculously expensive, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, you arrive there. You're 100% right. They shouldn't be committing if there's any chance that they'll pull out.
Yeah, it was only $20 to get into that too, so...
It's unfortunate.
That's a pity, yeah. Raducanu also cancelled her appearance at the Kooyong Classic on Wednesday as well after pulling out of that charity match on Tuesday night. She's just coming back after she underwent surgery on a right ankle injury, and her 2023 season was just wiped out by that, John. So she's on the comeback trail as well.
She's going to be playing Rogers. Oh, there you go. They've actually announced her and set a time. So she'll be her first match will be 11 a.m. on Sunday, Raducanu, against Shelby Rogers. Some of the times are coming out now, so
yeah, right. I'm still not sure if I don't know. Maybe they're doing the schedule for Sunday.
It's little bits that will come out over the next 2 days. Apparently, I just read right now.
Right. Oh, okay.
Over the next 2 days,
Good that we're getting this information as we speak here, John.
Bit by bit, it'll come out. But the women's will be done first, and then the men's. But that's pretty much for tennis right now because the tennis hasn't started, but it will on Sunday,
yeah. So on Monday we'll have some day one results to look at, John.
Definitely,
and we can look at some of the matches to come.
Yep, definitely. But cricket, cricket's still there. We've still got cricket. We've got the West Indies coming up. It's not just a test series, 2 test series, by the way. There's also an ODI series straight after the test series, which I only found out yesterday.
I'll tell you what, John, if that 2020 series between Australia and India was the Who Cares Cup after the Cricket World Cup late last year, what category does an ODI series against the West Indies go into?
It's after the Test series.
Yes.
Because, they need to...
the Test series is hard enough to get interested in, let alone an ODI series afterwards.
But, they found Warner's replacement. There was much discussion about it as soon as Dave Warner was born. It's been going on for years. Who's going to replace... Yeah. And so they've decided that Steve Smith will now be the new opener for Australia. With Cameron Green replacing Dave Warner in the squad, and he'll bat at 4.
So
weird one for me.
John,
I think
I can't work it out because Steve Smith, he's never opened in Test cricket. He averages 61.5 batting at number 4 in Test matches, and he's scored 1900s batting in that position. He's one of the best batsmen in the world and of all time, and he's a proven performer at number 4. So you've got a strength there in having a number 4 batsman who averages 61.5. You're moving him to open, so now you take away your strength at number 4 by moving him into the opening position. Further to that, you're putting in Cameron Green in the number 4 position. He's never batted at number 4 in Test cricket before. He's only batted at 6 or 7. Cameron Green averages 33.59 from 24 tests with the bat. As I said, he's never batted at number 4 before. And I know he's an all-rounder, so he's obviously a bowler as well. He's taken 30 wickets from 24 tests with the ball, averaging 36.03. Those numbers aren't great with the ball. But, either way, John, if you're picking a batsman at number 4 in the Test side, you're picking them as a batsman. If they happen to be able to bowl as well, that's great. That's a bonus.
Absolutely.
But you're not factoring in their bowling when you're making the decision who bats at 4. You're picking the best possible candidate at number 4 for batting, and you're disregarding their bowling when you're making that decision. So he averages 33.59 with the bat. That does not scream out at you at all, John, as someone to replace Steve Smith at number 4, seriously. And if we're going to go even further than that, John, Cameron Bancroft, he is the leading run scorer in Sheffield Shield cricket in the last 2 seasons of Sheffield Shield cricket. As an opener. So you have someone there to slot in for David Warner and not upset the rest of the order, leaving Steve Smith at number 4. So it's just strange to me.
Yeah, John. So that's triggered the rumours that Cameron Bancroft has to have been blacklisted in the Australian team.
He'd have to have been. What other reason could
George
there be?
Bailey, who's the chief selector, he's done a statement today where he insists that Cameron Bancroft is not blacklisted from the Australian team, and it's good that he is pushing hard to be recalled. And his justifications were things like, people forget that Cameron Bancroft has played Test cricket since Sandpaper Gate and since he's served his suspension. But, yeah, as you said, he's a leading run scorer as an opener. He was the obvious actual choice. And instead they've done... It is against the West Indies, right? Like, I could run out probably as the opener.
That's the thing. I mean...
And so
it was a perfect opportunity to blood him in the position.
Yeah, it's just such a... I mean, they could do anything they want right now against the West Indies and they're definitely going to win. But why would you not... especially, like, what did you say the other day? India is coming at the end of this year, right?
Yeah, India's coming next summer, yeah.
Yeah, so you want your best opener to be blooded, ready in the team throughout the year because of that. Because they're going to come over here and they're going to want to avenge themselves in the World Cup, you know? They're going to want to prove they are the best cricket nation in the world. And instead they're experimenting. I mean, like, they've got a year to experiment and put Steve Smith in number one, and maybe he can become the world's best number one, and Cameron Green can become the world's best number four.
Yeah,
but
and that's another point, isn't it, John? There's every indication that Steve Smith will do a good job as an opener, right? But, I mean, he's not proven as an opener. He is proven at number four.
Yeah.
You know he's going to do a job for you at number four. He averages 61.5 in Test cricket at number four. So why take that strength away from yourself by moving him in as an opener, and then not only that, not having a suitable candidate to replace him at number four with Cameron Green, who only averages 33 in Test cricket with the bat. All the while, you've got the leading run scorer of the last two seasons in Sheffield Shield cricket in Cameron Bancroft, who happens to be an opening batsman, and you won't pick him as an opener.
What is the purpose of Sheffield Shield other than to...
That's why it's there. It's the breeding ground for Test cricketers. That's its sole purpose, is that.
And
so if you're not gonna take him under these circumstances, when are you going to take him? When is Cameron Bancroft going to get another opportunity like this?
Well, he's not blacklisted.
I mean, he's 31 years of age. We'd have, as much as we don't know how Smith's going to go as an opener, we'd have to assume that for at least the next 2 or 3 years. Or, I mean, I guess one thing that maybe works in Bancroft's favour, if they are legit when they say that he's not blacklisted, which I'm sceptical about, John.
I don't believe that for a second.
Khawaja's age may play into his favour. Khawaja is, I think, off the top of my head, John, we can check, 36 or 37 years of age. So he doesn't have long left either.
37.
Yes, so the test will come then, John, when Khawaja retires, which you'd have to think it'd be within 12 to 18 months, given his age. Not many batsmen play past 38, John.
His form isn't the best. You know, it's Khawaja's. Like, he's average at best. So, yeah, I'd say he's probably got another 12 months. He might pull a Dave Warner and retire at the end of the next summer, you know. But it's a bizarre thing. Like, it really is. The fact that George Bailey had to come and do a statement and say... Oh, it was during a press conference, and someone asked George Bailey, has Cameron Bancroft been blacklisted? And George Bailey insisted that he wasn't, and then gave all these justifications. And apparently Pat Cummins called and spoke to Cameron Bancroft and told him, you haven't been picked, and this is why, and gave him all these reasons. Look, man, the reason is just because he's been blacklisted. And you can say all you want, he's played since then. Maybe he hasn't been blacklisted because of the sandpaper thing. Maybe he's just been blacklisted because of something else. They don't like him. He's not whatever. And, of course, they're not going to come out and say that, but they should at least tell Cameron Bancroft.
You'd think so, wouldn't you, John? I mean, the thing about Bancroft is And I know he's played 10 tests, John. He averages just 26.23. But he hasn't played a test since 2019, John. That's a long time ago. And since then, as we've said a few times now, he's the leading run scorer in Sheffield Shield cricket in the last 2 seasons. So how much can you really read into those 10 tests he played, the most recent of which was 5 years ago now?
Yeah,
surely you look beyond that and you look a lot more at his recent Sheffield Shield form, which, as we've said, is very good because he's the leading run scorer in the last 2 seasons.
He doesn't get picked for anything Australian. Nothing. So you'd have to say there's nothing else you can say. Like, he's definitely blacklisted.
He'd have to be.
Yeah.
He'd have to be.
Yeah.
I think there were rumours that he fell out with the bowlers because there was a real feeling that, it was nice and convenient that the ball tampering, the Sandpaper Gate ball tampering scandal got just blamed on 3 players, Steve Smith, David Warner and Cameron Bancroft. Nice and convenient that only 3 players were to blame and nobody else, including the bowlers.
It was the first time ever anyone did it as well, apparently.
Yeah. So there was a feeling that it was nice and convenient that Bancroft, that got his nose out of joint and he made those feelings public and that put him offside with the bowling group.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't think he's been blacklisted by Cricket Australia or anything like that. I get the feeling, because like I said, he has played a test match.
He has played since.
I get the feeling he's blacklisted by the players. Like, the players don't want to play with him. It's all conspiracy theory. You've got no idea.
That's the thing. If the senior players go to, the coach or the board or whoever, the CEO, and say, look, we don't want to play with this bloke.
Yeah, they're not going to pick him.
They're not picking him. They're not going to upset the senior players.
There are
something like that.
Some instances of that kind of thing in all sports where that's the one that never comes out because the players don't want to sit there and say, like, we actually don't like that guy. But that was also like one of the big rumours about, like, Anthony Mundine not getting picked a lot of the times, and it was because the other players didn't want to play with him. So, yeah.
The 42-man tour that didn't exist.
There was 42 people who said, we don't want to play with him. And so I think that's it. Like, I just get this feeling it seems like that kind of thing. But we'll see how Steve Smith goes. When is that West Indies match?
I think soon, it starts on Wednesday, John.
Yeah, they're finishing both tests before the end of January, aren't they?
I think, I'm pretty sure.
And then they start the one day on the 2nd of February or something like that. Yeah. So we'll know next week. Well, you know what? We'll know next Thursday because it is starting on Wednesday.
Yes.
Yep, Wednesday. So we'll know next Thursday if Australia bats first. We'll know how Steve Smith's going to go as an opener against the West Indies.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll do well against them, John. I'd say, from what you hear, that West Indies, I mean, there's a couple of standout individuals. I think Kemar Roach is one of those, but beyond that West Indies bowling attack, they'd be lucky to be at sort of Sydney first grade level. I would have thought, John. So I don't think Steve Smith's going to have any trouble with them. The test for Steve Smith will come. When they go, New Zealand are no easy beats in New Zealand on those green pitches in New Zealand. And obviously when India come out next summer, India have won their last 2 test series in Australia. So India will, pose him a lot more difficulty than the West Indies will.
It's going to come, if they continue with the thing, it's going to be 29th of February that Australia will be playing New Zealand in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And that is after a 3-match T20 series. Man, there is so I've just found out right now we've got Australia versus West Indies test series, 2 test series, then a 3 ODI series, and then straight after that a 3 T20 series. I didn't know the T20 series existed.
Much rather, but if they're going to, I mean, the West Indies series is pointless, but if you're going to have the 2 tests against the West Indies, wouldn't you much rather just play the 2 tests against the West Indies, then go straight to New Zealand and play your tests in New Zealand?
But they're going to
forget about these ODIs and T20s that mean nothing.
They're going to play a T20 series against New Zealand first on the 21st of February, and then straight after that, they're going to play the test.
John, who cares about that? Seriously.
It's a 2 test series as well. The 2 test series thing has to end. yeah, this is nonsense. So we have a World T20.
What should have happened, John, was they should have just gone, forget the West Indies 2 Test series. Just go straight to New Zealand and play 3 tests over there against them. That's what
is there a
should have
T20 World Cup this year? I'm just looking at Australia's getting totally sidetracked. I'm looking at Australia's.
I think. Excuse me. I think
ICC Men's T20 World Series World Cup.
I think there might be. Yeah.
Yep, it's okay.
But I think from memory, John, I think that's later in the year this year.
It's in June.
Right. Okay.
Okay. It's at I'm seriously just finding this stuff out. And it will be in America. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's going to be in America. USA, isn't it? Yeah. So that'll be in June. So that pitch, the 2-day pitch, it's been deemed unsatisfactory by the ICC after that 2-day match. Mm-hmm. It was in South Africa. Mm-hmm. They said it wasn't a test match pitch, and South Africa may face sanctions.
So we were talking about this the other day. I did a bit of research on it, John. So that test match you're talking about lasted just 642 legal balls. And that's the shortest test match of all time among completed test matches. Obviously, there were some that were, called off for weather and everything, but of completed
tests, finished.
Of the completed tests, this was the shortest test of all time.
So I wonder if South Africa doctored that pitch.
But to be fair, John, I said it at the time, I've got to be consistent. I'd watch that. I'd watch 2 days of that over 5 days of nothing happening on a road of a pitch where there's nothing in it for the bowler.
Those 5-day draws is the bane of test
cricket. That's the thing. Give me that over a 5-day draw where the ball does nothing for the bowlers any day of the week.
I think the perfect test matches are actually between 3 and 4 days. That's the perfect ones.
Yeah, you want about 4 days, don't you? Yeah. Where there's something in it for the bowlers and the batsmen.
It's got to be late into the 3rd day or into the 4th day. But once it gets beyond there, like the halfway through the 4th day or something like that, where the match is still going, it just becomes a draw. Because whichever team is in bat, if you're at that halfway through the 4th day, they're just going to go, crap, we can't win. Let's just bat out a draw. And that's one of the banes of Test cricket, the batting out the draw. So, that 3 to 4 days, late, finishing up on the 3rd, getting through the whole 3rd day and then finishing up on the 4th, I think is the perfect Test cricket. 2 days is too short, man.
It is, but, that's the thing. Not every pitch has to be the same either, John. And look, you never hear of, say if there was that scenario where you had a 5-day road of a pitch that did nothing for the bowlers. Would the ICC come out and say that pitch was unsatisfactory? I can't remember them saying that.
Oh, no, definitely not.
So that's the thing. So I get it, John. There's some...
They've issued a demerit point to the ground.
Yeah, there are obviously reasons why a 2-day test match doesn't work. But yeah, as I say, give me that over a boring 5-day test any day of the week. And not every pitch has to be, perfect as well. Sometimes you're going to get a minefield pitch like that where the match is over in 2 days. That's the beauty of Test cricket. Not every Test cricket pitch has to be the same. Not every Test cricket pitch has to play the same way.
But still, it shouldn't be 2 days, man. 2 days.
It's not the most ideal scenario, but yeah.
It is. It's 100% better than a 5 days boring draw.
Yeah, that's played on the Pacific Highway.
Yeah, exactly. But there's more and more coming out. The referees said that the ball bounced quickly and sometimes alarmingly throughout the match, making it difficult to play shots. Several batsmen were hit on the gloves and many wickets fell because of the awkward bounce. So the ground has been given a demerit point. If it's given 3 points, then the ground is declared unfit and needs to fix itself within 12 months. If they accumulate 6 demerit points over a 5-year period, then it gets a 12-month suspension from hosting international cricket. Oh,
well, South Africa probably don't care too much about that. They're a lot more they're a lot more focused on their 2020 league, evidently. That's why
Yeah.
they were happy to send their C team to play against New Zealand. I think they're a lot more focused on their 2020 domestic league.
I don't think they care. Okay, and so that's pretty much all for cricket. There'll be West Indies next week, and we'll see how Steve Smith goes. I think that'll be the talking point, how Steve Smith
At
goes.
least that creates a point of interest. So again, David Warner creates a point of interest on this time indirectly.
I wonder how they're going to link those news articles to him.
This time indirectly, but he's provided a talking point here because he's caused an interesting change in the batting order.
Yeah. So on to rugby league, our favourite topic of the week. And for our, honestly, guys, it's just our opinion. We're going to be doing a preview each episode for the 17 rugby league teams, starting from the bottom all the way up to the top. So we'll start from everyone's favourite wooden spoon is the Tigers. Preview for 2024 and how you think they're going to go. Do you want to kick off?
Yeah. There's obviously some issues here, John. I think the main one is that that Jerome Luai doesn't arrive for another 12 months. That's their main problem. So they've lost Luke Brooks. I don't think that's a big deal, John. I think they had to part ways with him. He just wasn't at his best anywhere near enough in his time at the club. Never made the finals. He was at the club for 10 years and never made the finals. And he was the chief playmaker. So Luke Brooks goes, they don't lose anything there. Obviously, Luai is he's their replacement for Luke Brooks, but they don't get him for 12 more months. So we've got Aiden Caesar coming into the frame. Hasn't played in the NRL for a while. Johnny's been in England since 2020.
Yeah, he went there he was at Canberra and the Titans before that. He was meant to be like the next big thing and just another one of those guys that after the rookie year collapsed, basically.
So it seems like, and I'm not sure, obviously Luai's going to need a partner in the halves when he gets there.
So they've also bought, I guess, so Aiden Caesar is 32 years old. I think he's on a 1-year agreement.
Yeah, so
I think he's been bought here for that 1 year.
He probably won't be renewed. He's just stopgap until they get Luai.
They've also bought Jaden Sullivan, who's a 6, over from the Dragons.
So what do you make of him? What do you
Well, because
think of
the thing with Sullivan, him and who was the one that did the hammer attack? Amon. Sullivan and Amon were meant to
one who did the hammer attack.
They were meant to be the future halves of the Dragons. Both of them wanted to leave. They're like, young guns, amazing in lower grades, came up to first grade perhaps a little bit too early in a crappy Dragons team, and both wanted to leave because Ben Hunt was in their way, basically. He's very good. He's still very young. I think he's 21 years old. That whole spine at the Tigers with Jareem Buller in one, he's the X factor that they'll have. So he was a kick-ass this year, actually. He orchestrated that win over the Panthers that they had. But that was his rookie year. So one of the issues with rookies is one of the reasons rookies work so well sometimes is because there's no video of them. And then they play for a year and other teams get the video of them.
And that's where they get their second year syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. So with their halves of Aiden Caesar, Jaden Sullivan, then Jareem Buller at the back, I don't know who their hooker is. Aiden Caesar is obviously going to be the chief playmaker.
Oh, yeah, Coruscant.
Chief playmaker, senior in that group.
So that's. I mean, again, I'm looking a bit forward here, but Buller at fullback, Luai in the halves, Coruscant at hooker,
and Sullivan is a 5'8".
There's a good nucleus that they're
25 is good. Yeah. I think So 2024, you got a new coach in Benji Marshall, who's the youngest coach in the NRL. He's 38 years old. My God, he's only 5 years younger than me.
He's older than me, but only just.
So he had some matches last year in charge. I use the quotes, but they're not even on his official record. After Tim Sheens got the sack. Yeah. But we talked about it last year. Tim Sheens was still in the room, and that was totally a protection racket to not adversely affect Benji. So after that period where Tim Sheens was given the sack, again, quotes, and Benji was in charge, he only won one game. Now, I can only in history actually think of one coach who took over, in recent history, midway through a year and actually did anything, and it was Brad Fittler after he took over from Chris Anderson. So nothing that Benji has shown this year is anything.
And he's going to have... So he finished playing with the Tigers in 2020, John. That's not that long ago.
Yeah.
So he could potentially... And I haven't gone through their squad. I'm not sure how many players they still have left from 2020 who Benji would have played with there, but that's potentially an issue, John, that he could be too friendly with some of the players that he played with himself. But I think the main issue for Benji is that we just don't know if he can coach, John.
At all.
I mean, he was a great player, no question about it, but he's only had 1 year as an assistant coach under Tim Sheens. He was meant to have 2, and they just basically decided it was all too hard for Tim Sheens. So they fast-tracked him for no real good reason, John. And I think that's not like it's not like he's been fast-tracked because Benji did such a great job as an assistant coach that we couldn't bear to have him as assistant coach for another year. We had to have him as the head coach after only 12 months being an assistant. It was too hard for Tim Sheens, so you're in a year early, mate.
Yeah, and one thing he has shown is his ability to get players to sign. But I think that'll change. That'll change depending on the outcome of this year. So he's been able to sign some really good players for 2025.
He's got that to his credit. He's signed Luai.
He's got some young guns. A lot of them are Pacific Islanders or New Zealand players, which Benji has that a link with them and all. So they've lost Latu Fainu, Samuela Fainu. No, sorry, that's who they gained. They gained Fainu.
Yeah.
It's both the Fainus.
The Fainu brothers, yeah.
Yeah. Jaden Sullivan, Aiden Caesar, Solomon Alamilo from Super Rugby, and Solomona Fatapi from the Brisbane Tigers, who was one of those young guns that Benji was able to snare. And as you said, they've lost Luke Brooks, they've lost Tommy Talau, Dane Laurie, Itasi James, Rua Natakora, Tuki Simpkins, Brendan Wakeham, Tristan Riley, and Brendan Webster Mansfield. The thing with their gains and losses is they cancel each other out because the majority of players they lost were West Tiger. Well, every player they lost was a West Tiger, so who cares? Exactly. And the players they've gained are now West Tigers, so who cares?
There's nothing really that sort of jumps out. No. I mean, those Fainu brothers, I mean, there's a bit of potential there. Yeah. I mean, Latu Fainu, he's a young playmaker on the rise. He's only 18. He signed a 4-year deal. That gives them another option other than Caesar and Sullivan. So if those two aren't working out, then you never know. He might get his debut before the season's over. They've
also got Adam Dewey to come back because he was out injured with a knee. I think that's how Jareen Buller got his start, right? So Dewey can play 1, 6, and 7. So they have no shortage of young, exciting halves as well as because Dewey's pretty senior now. I don't know how old he is, but he's been around for a while. Semi-senior halves, and then Api Coruscant, who was... Did he play in Origin?
Coruscant. Might need to look that one up, John.
I know he was in Origin mix. If I can work it. There we go. So he's 31. Yeah. He's been around forever. But he played 4. Okay. Yeah. So, they've got a pretty good spine actually, and they didn't have that good of a spine last year, or for many previous years. But they've got a pretty good. They don't have, Daly Cherry Evans, Adam Reynolds, James Tedesco, this kind of name in their spine, but. When you look at it, Buller, Caesar, Sullivan, and Api Coruscant, or perhaps Dewey, or perhaps Fainu, it's not that bad. The other thing about them is this year they're going to be playing 10 games at their home grounds.
Yeah.
Which they haven't done a lot for the past few years because they've been chasing the money. So, like this year, they played 3 at each. Last year they played 3 at each. This year they're playing 5 at Campbelltown and 5 at Leichhardt, and then they have, I think, one of their home games is the Magic Round. They're closing out Magic Round. And then they've got another one of those, everyone does a regional one to get a bit of money.
Yeah.
Which is a big, look, those grounds both suck.
But I think they'd rather be playing there than
it's a big
grounds.
it's a big bump. I think it will help Benji a lot. Their draw is actually one of the most lenient or least hard draws. They're starting out round 1 with the bye that everybody knows, so that means they'll at least be 9th after the first round. Guaranteed 9th after the first round.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to.
Opening of the round, technically they're first.
Yeah, exactly. They're on top of the ladder.
Yeah. They're going to play none of the powerhouses from 2023 twice. Okay?
It's good.
The teams they'll play twice, the ones from the finals are the Knights, Sharks and Raiders. And then they'll play Eels, Dolphins, Dragons, Rabbitohs, and Cowboys twice. So there's some Eels and Rabbitohs playing them twice can be quite a thing. Maybe the Cowboys might be an issue, but Dolphins, Dragons, even Raiders, something like the Raiders is not a hard thing. If they get the Knights early, they could do very well. They got a bye for Origin 1 when the players are actually out, and then the backup after the matches against the Dragons 2 days later. So even with players back up, Dragons are more likely to have players out for Origin than the Tigers as well. They'll have Ben Hunt out for Origin. He'll have to back up 2 days later and things like that.
Yeah, Origin's a time that would suit a club like the Tigers.
Yeah, exactly.
Not having many representatives.
So they'll play the Raiders and the Sharks where all the teams are missing the Origin players. And again, the Tigers aren't going to have a stack of guys out for Origin, man. So they're going to have. I can't think of anyone in their squad that they're going to actually play. He's going to play Origin, to be honest. So they're probably going to have a full strength squad. Maybe the Sharks might have somebody out, like maybe Nico Hines. So they get that, but then they do have to back up on those weeks against the Roosters and the Rabbitohs. So it could be an ups and downsy over the Origin 2 and 3. Origin 1, they've got the best, absolute best. And Origin periods in those teams that are, fighting for those middle of the round things, they're the periods that win it for them. They're the periods that win the battle. So they've got a kind of good Origin period that could keep them off the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot is going to hinge on this season for them. A lot's going to hinge on Buller being able to take their attack to the next level, and Coruscant. I think those are the two. If you had to sort of narrow it down to 2 players who it's going to hinge on, whether they can get off the bottom of the ladder, I think that their goal this season is just don't come last.
Yeah,
basically.
Don't fight for the spoon.
Yeah.
Don't fight to avoid the spoon.
So if they're going to get off the bottom of the ladder, it's going to come from Buller and Coruscant primarily, as far as I can see. So last year they won 4 games. The Dragons came second last, winning 5. Bulldogs came third last, winning 7. If we're looking at where the Tigers are going to finish this year, I'm sorry, Joe, I just can't see anything changing. I just can't see enough there to suggest that they're going to finish above anybody this season and that they're going to finish. I know they've won the last 2 wooden spoons. It's hard to see them not winning a 3rd in a row, John. There is light at the end of the tunnel with Luai coming in 2025. But as for 2024, I think it's going to be a hard slog, John, and I can't see them finishing off the bottom of the ladder, I'm sorry to say.
I think we'll get to the other teams, the Dragons on Monday and Bulldogs next Thursday. I think out of those 3 teams that fought to avoid the wooden spoon this year, the Tigers are probably actually in a better position than the other 2, certainly than the Dragons. And I think there are some other teams that are going to sharply drop next year, none more so than the Raiders. So I kind of see the Tigers in that There's 17 teams now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
15th or 14th position.
Okay, so you don't think... So I've got them 17th, John.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hope it doesn't happen, but I think it will happen.
Yeah.
So you've got them at 14 or 15.
15th, yeah. We'll go,
So
I got to pick one.
You're going to pick one, so you're going to go 15th. Okay, so you've got them finishing off the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think the Dragons will come last, by the way, just a preview for next week.
You're setting your expectations low, John, so hopefully they surprise you.
Yeah, so look, I just think that spine is what does it for them. They've got like I said, they've got a pretty good spine. It's not a bad spine. It's not a superstar spine. It's a very middle of the road spine that can help keep them off the ladder. It is going to come down exactly to what you said. Api Coruscant, Jareen Buller.
Mm-hmm.
If those two, if Coruscant can feed Sullivan and Caesar well from the ruck, and Buller can kick in that X factor, I think they can score a lot of points. There's definitely a lot of points in them, and there's going to be some issues with their defence.
Yeah, I just don't think that they should be expecting much out of Caesar or Sullivan. And I'm not, it's all relative, John, but just in comparison to other halves combinations,
yeah,
I mean...
It's like Sullivan was supposed to be that young gun, come up and be the best, but he was stuck at the Dragons, and he's gone to the one team in the NRL that's worse than the Dragons. That was always the blame. Why isn't Sullivan as good as he should be? Well, he is at the Dragons. But, he's gone to the one team that's worse, so he could potentially go worse. Or... with Caesar there to lead him around the park and that, because, like I said, Api Coruscant's 31. So he's a very senior player as well. He's been around for a long time. He's played with some of the best teams and players in the comp, and he's played Origin. So he can get them to that next. He can get those young players to that next level of actually concentrating on winning. So yeah, I'm going 15th. You're going 17th. We've got to keep track of this to the end of the year.
That's the thing. We might sort of make a bit of a note of that so we don't double up. John.
Yeah. We'll do it. We'll add it to each rundown. Further on, so that's it for the Tigers preview for 2024. Honestly, guys, it's just our opinion. On Monday, we'll be doing the Dragons. So I'll have a lot to say about how terrible they are.
Yes, you will.
Continuing on with rugby league news, Scott Fulton and the Tigers. Scott Fulton's been sacked as the Tigers' recruitment boss. Now, if you remember, there was a lot of stuff about when he was there that he was hired without Benji Marshall or Tim Sheen say so. He had a lot of, rumoured issues. Well, Benji had a lot of issues with him. And Shane Richardson's come in as the interim CEO, chairman, whatever the hell it is, and sacked him.
To me, it seems like it's Shane Richardson keeping Benji Marshall happy, I think.
I think so. I absolutely think so. I think they'll go and hire someone else. Because Scott Fulton, he's not a bad recruitment boss, actually. So he's been at a few other clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah, he was at Manly, I guess that's the thing, John. They've invested so much in Benji Marshall as their next head coach. So if he's not seeing eye to eye with the recruitment manager for whatever reason... Well, what choice would Shane Richardson have as the incoming CEO? He has to make sure everybody's on the same page, and I believe that Fulton was signed by Pascoe anyway.
Yes.
So now that Pascoe's gone, well, that's a lot of protection gone for Fulton there, and it's no real surprise that he's been shown the door now that Pascoe's not there anymore.
I can speak from personal fan experience. They had that same kind of issue at the Dragons with Steve Price not having any control over his recruitment, and no one thinks that's a good idea. You hire a good recruitment manager, all right, you always should hire a good recruitment manager, because the recruitment manager and his team has to go out and find people and keep track of everyone who's off contract and stuff. So when the coach can come and go, I need a front row forward who does 20 hit-ups a game, and this is what I need, forward leader, or I need a young gun centre who we can put as a development player. The recruitment team then goes and looks at their list and goes, all right, this is the guy, so we'll chase that guy. When they don't see eye to eye about who they should recruit, then you have massive problems in your team. So it's good if Benji Marshall and Scott Fulton aren't on the same page to get rid of Scott Fulton. And then I kind of like it because it kind of shows me that, yes, they are investing a lot in Benji Marshall, but they're also backing him to do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, the head coach and the recruitment manager have to be on the same page. And if they're not, and if you're going to back the head coach, well, you have to get rid of the recruitment manager, and that's what they've done.
Just get Robbie Farah to do it. Robbie Farah's still floating around there somewhere. I think he's general manager of football or possibly an assistant coach or maybe the recruitment boss or God knows what now at the Tigers.
I think him and Benji had a bit of bad blood, didn't they, for a while, but I think they've sorted it out.
Yeah, it was all over, like, them leaving, and things like that, like not being,
Yeah, so he might have a gig there, I'm not sure.
He does, he works there. Yeah. So he was brought in as, it's very weird though, because some news articles said he was brought in as the general manager of football, some said he was brought in as an assistant coach, some say he was brought in to be like one of those mentors. So I don't know what he's doing there, I just know that Robbie Farah's over there.
he might,
he's a recruitment boss, man. Yeah, why not? They got an opening. If he's just sitting out the back on a table doing whatever he wants and getting paid, give him a job. But I think actually he might be the general manager of football. I don't know.
Which he'd probably have a lot to do with recruitment in that role.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, look at the Bulldogs, who's the general manager of football, is the only one that seems to do the recruitment over there.
Yes.
According to Daily Telegraph, secret photos. Or worse, yes. Secret photos.
Yes.
On to the Broncos. There's a couple of things around the Broncos that are coming out. So, actually, they've announced a partnership with Tom Brady.
Yeah,
he's retired now.
Yeah, the NFL legend. Yeah, I just threw this one in at the last minute, John. So, yeah, obviously the Broncos are going to be part of that Las Vegas doubleheader in round one, John.
Yep.
And so I guess it's appropriate that they've announced on Wednesday that Tom Brady, that they've struck up a promotional partnership with him. He's going to be in town or in Brisbane later this month. They're going to meet for an exclusive event. I think it's called An Evening with Tom Brady on January 28. And obviously then the Broncos will be heading to the US not long after for a training camp. Heading into that round one clash against the Roosters at Allegiant Stadium.
Tom Brady is, for those who don't know, is like the Andrew Johns of NFL.
Yes.
I think he's won seven
Super
rings.
Bowls, yes.
Across two teams as well.
Yeah.
And he's basically untouchable. He's got some weird controversies that come out around how much he loves his family and stuff like that. But he's the all-American kind of full, white, blue-eyed, blonde hair, chiseled jaw, everything. So he's like a god amongst Americans. So having him as a partnership for that promotional, just keep saying that NRL in Las Vegas is a promotional tool, and having Tom Brady along can do no harm. It's a great get, actually.
Smart marketing move from the Broncos, John.
You got to remember, I wonder how much it costs, though, because you got to remember these NFL players get paid like $20 million a year.
Oh, yeah, and I think I saw something about Tom Brady being paid an absolutely ridiculous amount to be a commentator.
Yeah.
I can't even remember the figures, John, but it's just an astronomical number.
Aaron Rodgers, who's another NFL great, was up until yesterday when there's some controversy. He was doing a weekly appearance on a podcast for $1 million a week.
Sounds all right.
Come on, SmartB, where's my $1 million a week? So they get paid a lot. I'm really wondering how much that Tom Brady thing cost. Continuing on with the Broncos, well, they lost the grand final, and they have to watch the match, and so Kevin Walters has forced them to watch it. Yeah,
I mean, I guess ordinarily if it was a sort of regular season game, it'd be the norm, John, to look back at the tape. They'd all do that. They'd all have video on the Monday after the round just gone. But yeah, usually with a grand final, if you lose, a lot of the time teams just pretend it never happened and never touch the tape again. And especially not if you lose a grand final in the way, again, with Brisbane's grand final loss, it wasn't just that they lost, it was the way it happened.
Yeah.
Happened in the worst possible circumstances. As I say, John, I'd rather my team lose the grand final by 30 than lose it the way that the Broncos lost it. You'd much rather just get beaten up and never be a chance of winning than have it won and then lose it in the dying stages. Yeah. So, yeah, Walters made them sit through it, John, and they were forced to relive that horror 25 minutes where they gave away that 24-8 lead and lost 26-24. So, yeah, he's made them watch it again, John. Obviously, he thinks there's going to be some benefit in that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made them do it.
Well, he should make them watch it. If they make it to the grand final again, he should make them watch it again
Again, maybe that's the better time to do it, but maybe you just do it again at that time.
Could just be that they're all still demotivated, so he's ripped the Band-Aid off to go, all right, now you've watched it, get over it, let's get back to work now. Because it is now time for all rugby league teams to be back. Like, the back office, the coaching and stuff is off holiday.
Addressing the elephant in the room.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like, they're all still not over it. So it's like, all right, guys, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Yeah, just watch it. Get out of the way.
Get it out of your system. All right,
done. Let's go train now. We're going to win next year. Let's forget about it. You've seen it. It's done. Well, I think I've mentioned before, I've never watched the 99 grand final. I'm a fan. I wasn't in it, I've never watched the 99 grand final again since 99. I can imagine how hard it is. But I've made Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athletes who lost gold medal matches watch the fight again, the recording, to go over what they did wrong. What the Broncos did wrong in that grand final, though, is Nathan Cleary. Like, Nathan Cleary'd them, Like, it's hard to... Yeah. I haven't watched the match again. I can't really 100% remember everything, but, my recollection of it at this point is that Nathan Cleary'd them, the Broncos should have shut them down more, but what happened 20 minutes to go with Nathan Cleary it just seemed like nobody was ever going to shut that down.
Yeah. I've seen the Bulldogs lose 4 grand finals, John, and thankfully all 4 of them, they were never in the game and they never looked like winning. And I'm much happier with that than to lose one like you lost in 1999 or one like the Broncos lost. Yeah,
I've said before, man, the 99 one, Dragons fans will say, try and blame Jamie Ainscough and say there was a controversial try or whatever. It was a try. Jamie Ainscough did the complete wrong thing. Without that penalty, it was going to be a try anyway. Hence, that's why it was a penalty. That's the thing,
is it really... I mean, the circumstances were eventful, but was it really controversial?
No, there was no controversy. Yeah. It was a penalty try because it would have been a try. Dragons lost the game. It sucked so much. I remember it. It burns, and I've never watched any of it again. Nothing. Some people will send me, clips to rub it in when we're making fun of each other. And I'll see the preview and just no, I'm not watching that one. It hurts. So I can't imagine what it's like for players at all. Maybe one day when I go complete in the World Championship in Jiu-Jitsu and I lose in the gold medal match, then I'll know. Continuing on with the Broncos, though, Selwyn Cobbo, Kevy's announced some stuff about Selwyn Cobbo. Selwyn Cobbo is a State of Origin winger. State of Origin winger, and he's been moved to the centres. Yeah,
it's with Herbie Farnworth going to the Dolphins. That's opened up that spot in the centres. So Cobbo's going to slot in there, John. So that'll be interesting to see how
there's only 2 directions a winger goes, to the centre or to the fullback. That's the only way they're going to increase their pay, basically. So wing is kind of... more historically and less so now, but there's specialist wingers, but wing is kind of considered you only pay a winger like $300,000. The only way Selwyn Cobbo is going to increase his pay and his value is by moving either to centres or fullback. That's the 2 directions that wingers go.
Yeah, and I mean he's strong defensively as well, so he'll suit the centres for that reason.
It's the centre, it's just the angles that you got to adjust your defence for. So I'm sure he can do it. He's very, very good. He's an Origin player. He's good.
I guess that leaves Jesse Arthurs, Dean Mariner, and Corey Oates going for the 2 wing positions.
18th man Corey Oates. He was the 18th man for those bunch of games last year, yeah? That was him.
Yeah. He couldn't get in the team, so
Surely
I
it's
don't know,
going to be
John,
18th man Corey Oates.
I mean, I haven't seen a lot of. I straight off the bat, I probably would have looked at that and gone, "Will you go with Arthurs and Oates?" But I haven't seen a whole lot of Mariner, to be honest,
Yeah.
John. So,
But surely it's Oates because he sat there being 18th man for all the important games.
yeah, I would have thought you'd go Arthurs and Oates on the wings, and you'd probably leave Mariner out there, John.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen a whole lot of Mariner, to be
Yes,
honest.
so we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. I think the Broncos, when we get to the Broncos, so just keep getting notifications. There's a lot going on with them because they're going to try and do everything to overcome that final hurdle, which could be a mistake. Making a whole bunch of changes, doing all this stuff, like trying to make when all they really need to do is adjust that small 20 minutes, you know. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think you're right. They need to be careful of trying to reinvent things too much. They need to just really just do it a lot like they did it in 2023.
Well, they almost came first. They almost won a minor premiership as well.
Yeah.
So the whole year was good. It's just there was 20 minutes of their year that wasn't good. Yeah,
And it was the most important 20 minutes of the season. But, you're right. I mean, the grand final's a long way away, isn't it? You start all over again, and the worst thing they could do is let the nature of that grand final defeat get in their heads. It's a long season. They should just start it as best they can. Hopefully, get some early wins on the board, and hopefully, like everyone is, aim for that top 4 finish at the end of the regular season. There's 2 separate competitions. There's a regular season and then a final series. You focus on the regular season first. There's every indication to think that they will finish in the top 4 again, and if they do, they'll give themselves a good shot at the title again this year, John.
Surely it won't be Panthers again. That's it for the NRL this week. There is an AFL news. So if you remember way back in round 23, Joel Smith from Melbourne tested positive for cocaine. We had a long discussion about it and whether cocaine is a performance-enhancing drug and so on. So he's now facing a 2-year ban from professional sport for testing positive for cocaine. Unfortunate for him.
I don't get it. It's got nothing to do with his performance.
You have all those NRL players eating bags on the internet and white powder issues, and none of them are getting even tested, let alone getting banned for 2 years.
Sorry, was that? I haven't had to read about this story, John. Was that a 2-year ban? That would have obviously been enforced by the AFL, wouldn't it? Or was it it's
AFL policy based on the drug bodies thing, so I think I've explained it before. Yeah. The organisation pays a body and then follows the body's rules. Sometimes they can adjust them if they want. But yeah, it's like basically whatever the body they use says cocaine is a banned substance with a 2-year ban. It happened to Wendell Saylor, he got banned for 2 years for cocaine. But still, it's time to modernise these kind of things. They know now that cocaine is definitely not a performance-enhancing drug. Ain't no one going out on the nose beers, like going to the, what was the guy's name? The the Gazelle, and going, mate, I don't need the PEDs, I need the nose beers to improve my performance. Yeah.
I don't agree with it. It's got nothing to do with his performance. It's not a performance-enhancing drug. It's got nothing to do with the AFL. Once again, it's probably the AFL trying to play moral police, which they do on all of these matters. They're quick to play moral police out in public, the AFL, and yet behind closed doors, with that Clayton Oliver story, they're doing everything they can to bury that story. So they play the good guys and the nice guys out in public, and you'd be amazed what goes on with them behind closed doors. I think it's
disgraceful. Come over to the NRL, Joel Smith. Or go play in the NFL as a punter. There's not much else in AFL as usual. We can always dig up one story at least, which is good. Once the season starts in 6 weeks, there'll be more on the AFL every week. On Combat Sports, UFC's returning from their holiday this Sunday with Ankalev versus Walker 2. Nobody cares. But next week is the first PPV of the year with Sean Strickland versus Duplessis. If you remember last year, they had the brawl before the match.
Yeah. Strickland's an interesting character.
Yeah, he's crazy. I saw a video the other day that says he's a real-life GTA character. He's a bizarre guy. And it's been officially announced Francis Ngannou's next fight will be against Anthony Joshua on March the 8th. It's an 8-figure payday. And Francis Ngannou is going to be paid, rumoured, $20 million before pay-per-view points and sponsorships.
Not a bad payday.
Yeah, so he's gone and gotten his bag. Apparently Anthony Joshua is getting $50 million because he's the boxer and Ngannou's not. And so in that Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury fight, the figures have been leaked or whatever, but you never know if they're real. It was Ngannou got $10 million and Tyson Fury got $50 million.
So Ngannou's getting 20 and Joshua's getting 50?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're two of the very few people of the world who can afford to buy Sydney property.
Put a deposit on a Penrith one-bedroom house, apartment. Absolutely crazy money. That's the Saudis, The Saudis just throw so much money at boxing. Ridiculous amounts of money.
Look at what they're doing with golf now.
With the $1 billion.
So I think what's next with the Saudis? Are they going to come for tennis next? Anyway.
Maybe. Yeah. And then, the thing I like about these, though, is at least the Saudis are putting on boxing and they're not interested in having guys like Jake Paul and those boxing circuses in Saudi Arabia. They want actual boxing, which is good because, I've discussed before, boxing is good. Fight circuses are different. So it's good. I might watch that fight. Oh, well, I'll definitely watch that fight because I want to see. Anthony Joshua's legit. He's former world champ in one of the 48 different titles. Francis Ngannou was ranked 10th after putting Tyson Fury down, even though he's only got one boxing record. So it'll be a good fight. On to other sports news. Speaking of golf, this shocked me the other day, the Tiger Woods story.
Him and Nike have ended their 27-year partnership, John. That Woods was with him since he turned professional way back in 1996. So there you go, John. Never thought I'd see the day where him and Nike could part ways. Maybe could it be to do with the fact, John, that they're more about shoes, I think, Nike, and shoes are not really what you'd associate with golf so much. It's more with shoes, you more think about, NBA, basketball, or tennis, or as opposed to golf. I don't know.
It's very weird, actually, because Nike have all sports clothes, and they manufacture Tiger Woods clothes, and he has to wear them. But what I read is he stopped wearing Nike a couple of weeks ago, and he's now wearing a different brand. It's the same brand that Roger Federer changed to. I can't remember what it was. And so actually the suspicion is someone's come along and given him more money. Because golfers will play till they're 60, So he's, what is he? He's 48 years old, 52
Tiger.
years. Yeah.
I don't think he's 50 yet, John, but I think he's getting close.
Yeah, 48 years old. He's going to be around for another 12 years.
Yeah.
He was the first ever billionaire that became a billionaire solely on sports, sponsorships, and prize monies. So Michael Jordan is a billionaire, but he went and bought teams and stuff. He went and bought a team and invested and all this kind of thing. Whereas Tiger Woods was the first billionaire to solely make the money purely from sport with no investment.
So I guess the question is now, who would Nike be looking at? Would they be looking at somebody to really, big up as their replacement for Tiger Woods, or
it doesn't? You don't know, because with the way Nike works, I've actually been to a talk with a Nike branding guy, and you can watch that great movie Air actually with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, which is of course a dramatized version of the Michael Jordan thing. Because of course, all sporting clothes used to sponsor teams and organizations, actually. So, the NBL, everyone would wear Adidas, all teams and stuff like that. Or they would sponsor like the Charlotte Hornets, and then Nike in one of the Olympics, the Olympics that was in America, I can't remember which one it was, in the 80s.
Would have been LA, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. I can't. Yeah, whatever one it was. That was the first real big marketing push where a sporting clothing or apparel organization specifically sponsored athletes. Because Nike couldn't get into the Olympics, actually, like in any sponsorship form. I think it was Adidas was the sponsor. But from what I understood, you would drive around... It was LA. Drive around LA and see all the American athletes on billboards come to the Olympics, sponsored by Adidas, but the athlete would be wearing Nike clothes. So it was like a really brilliant marketing thing. And then they started to do that. So everyone allocated budget to just... And it's not just... They don't go like, all right, we're going to do this much on golf, this much on basketball. They just have a big budget where they find all the sports stars they want to sponsor. And Michael Jordan was the first one to demand a percentage. And yeah, in that Air movie, spoiler alert, everyone, they have this discussion, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Ben Affleck is the owner of Nike, or the founder of Nike, and Matt Damon is the marketing guy. And Michael Jordan's mum says to Matt Damon, we want a percentage, which is never going to happen. It's never been heard of before. And he goes to Ben Affleck and said, sorry, man, it's not going to happen. Wasted all this whole movie. Because they want a percentage. And Ben Affleck goes... You know what? Screw it. Let's just do it. Because what are we going to be paying him? Like $50,000 a year? And it ends up that Michael Jordan makes like $400 million a year for his sponsorships. So yeah, they'll find someone to sponsor. It doesn't matter. They have a set budget, and it comes down to when they start making, like Roger Federer shoes, that Roger Federer starts getting more money. And I like I said, I know he's now with somebody. I'm 100% sure he's now with someone else. It'll come out next week. Because he started wearing their clothes already. I just can't remember the brand.
Sounds interesting.
It is really interesting if you're into marketing, actually, the way all that stuff went down. And that movie's awesome. You should watch it. I think it was a Ben Affleck directed movie as well.
I get the feeling their eyes will be focused on an NBA player.
Yeah.
That'll be their next target.
And so we've got some updates on Michael Schumacher.
Yeah.
It was always a tragic thing.
Yeah, unfortunately... it's terrible what's happened to him, John. The state that he's been in since that horror skiing accident back in 2013. We just haven't had a lot of information about his health. His family have been really closely guarded about it, kept it secret. Not many people are allowed to visit him, and the ones who are told to keep quiet about his condition. But yeah, apparently there are reports that have come out that he does sit at the dinner table with his family. So
that's good.
I mean, that's something. So yeah, that's been reported in recent days, John. So we hope that I think from what I've read, his family, they wanted to keep him alive and functioning in case science. Gets better and hopefully he can get back into some sort of state similar to what he was in pre that accident 11 years ago, John. But yeah, it's a very sad and an unfortunate story, isn't it?
It is.
And we wish him well. We hope that his health can improve, John. But if that's true, and I'm not sure how true those reports are, but if that is true that he does sit at the dinner table and he has that ability, well, that's better than what we thought, John.
It was tragic, and it always will be. On a lighter note, though,
yes,
we got to
finish with a lighter note.
Tay update.
Did you catch what happened, John, at the golf?
I did. I actually did an Instagram post about it last night.
Oh, right. Okay.
About how little I cared.
I put it on.
Not about the Taylor
NFL
Swift thing,
reference.
just about, I think people are being really hypocritical about it. So, yeah, Joe Coy, who I've actually seen him live. Years and years and years ago, he opened for Russell Peters at the Hordern Pavilion. And it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. And the people I was with, like my friends that went with me, we still make references to that from it's like 20 years ago, man. But he apparently took the gig on 10 days' notice. He didn't write all of his jokes, which is very common in the So the thing about Golden Globes hosts from what I understand, what people have said is you don't get to write a lot of your own jokes, and they vet all of your jokes, and they cancel and edit a bunch of your jokes. So he made a joke about Tay-Tay, which I don't know what the actual joke was.
Yeah, I've got it here, John.
Yeah.
He said, this is his quote, he said, "The big difference between the Golden Globes and the NFL, on the Golden Globes we have fewer camera shots of Taylor Swift, I swear." Look, John, I don't think there's a lot wrong with that. I mean, Taylor Swift, they put the camera on her, and she... You talk about a death stare and someone who's upset. She really didn't look happy. I don't know, Joe. I think she's just got to lighten up a bit and not take herself so seriously.
This was the biggest one, and they used it. They highlighted it, but like there was a bunch of jokes that they just fell flat, and it's because Hollywood now takes themselves way too seriously. You know, they don't let. If you've ever gone back and watched the Ricky Gervais monologue on, I think the second time, it's hilarious, and they're laughing. But there was so much offense afterwards and comments after it from Hollywood stars. And, of course, people blindly will follow whatever Taylor Swift says, young girls, right? So if she's not happy with Joe Coy, then the internet will not be happy with Joe Coy. And that's the way that Hollywood has now gone. They all take themselves too seriously. You're not allowed to make fun of them.
You have to think, looking at that reaction, John, all the fame and success, it's all gone to her head.
Yeah,
she just can't laugh at herself anymore.
Like, it's everyone in that table now, in that room now. All of them are like that. Nobody liked being made fun of. And Taylor Swift is just the most famous one. It's you know, like, so one of the things that the thing that I actually posted last night on Instagram was all the outrage I see around Joe Coy's jokes and how they're bullying. That's the thing. They're all bullying now. He's a bully. He's bullying Taylor Swift.
Bullying.
The outrage that I'm seeing is from the same people who think that Celeste Barber is funny. And Celeste Barber became famous by imitating famous Instagram posts. You know, like she would make fun of Kim Kardashian and stuff. Like take a Kim Kardashian post and then like imitate it and like make fun of it and say to point out how stupid it is. And yeah, the people who are so outraged by Joe Coy bullying Taylor Swift are the same people on my feed that thought Celeste Barber is really hilarious. And so there's like, you know, there's a lot of hypocrisy in it. And like I said, they blindly follow. It's just because they love Taylor Swift and they hate Kim Kardashian. So it's okay for Celeste Barber to make fun of Kim Kardashian, but it's not okay for anyone to make fun of Taylor Swift.
I think she would have come out of it a lot better, John, if she had just laughed at the joke.
Yeah.
So
I had a chuckle just now.
Yeah, Taylor Swift doesn't take herself too seriously. She's laughing along with the joke. She seems like she's really down to earth. That's how you would have looked at it if she had laughed at it. But I've come out of that thinking, well, Taylor Swift's full of herself.
It's worth watching the whole monologue so you can see what I mean. Like, none of them.
So, because I only looked at that, John. I only looked at the Taylor Swift.
Everything he says about any individual, it flashes that individual, and they're all so offended. It's like, man, go back. It's not long ago that Ricky Gervais hosted the, was it the Oscars? I don't know.
Golden Globes.
Was it the Golden Globes?
That one was.
Yeah. Whatever he hosted, where he made fun of them all. And they all accepted it and laughed, and everyone thought it was funny. And now Ricky Gervais is universally hated and stuff as well, so because he's a bully and
because you're not allowed to make jokes about Hollywood celebrities anymore, John.
No, not at all. That's our Tay-Tay update. That'll go up, and now we're going to probably cop a lot of flack from Tay-Tay fans because we just said
brace yourself.
Onto our social media blower uppers. We had a lot of actually I've got a mix. I've repeated the same thing. So on kids' sports are expensive. A couple of clips went up about the kids' sports being expensive based on a social media comment last week. I like Bob Down 5520. His comment: running is not expensive. He's right. But if you get your kid into competitive running, it will become expensive. All right, but it's a good joke, mate.
He's right.
And then just jumping forward a bit because I actually split this on the same video. CKel115 said, "Wow, what a ridiculous suggestion." That was in reference to me saying that the NRL should unify and do more funding for juniors. And it's been clarified actually to Seakill, who then apologised and said, sorry, that's the problem with shorts, which is true. You don't get the whole context.
Yeah, so he's just commented on a short and not seen... Yeah, that's the thing. The shorts are only shorts. You got to watch the whole...
Yeah.
The whole section.
Yeah. That's what the shorts are for, to encourage you to go watch the whole section.
Yeah. We can't... It's just impossible to get everything...
In less than 60 seconds.
Yeah, so to get all the context into that is very difficult.
Yeah.
So it's just not possible.
And then Brody Griffin 1711 agrees. It does cost a lot to play sports. Rugby league's been expensive for a long time. It's the first one I heard of being expensive. 25 years ago when I played AFL and basketball as a kid, it was $5 a game, and juniors only had to buy shorts and socks. The club supplied the jumper, singlet, and like $50 a season for medical costs in case of ambulance being called and insurance. Nowadays, it varies club to club, but $250 to $400 is average for membership, plus your shorts and socks, and then it's $10 to $20 per game. The game fee goes to the league umpires / referees. So this is the thing. It averages out to about between $250 to $400 per term for most kids' sports, which is pretty expensive in today's day and age. With the cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
But I don't like. I don't know about this $10 to $20 per game. Is that how it works? You have to pay every game to get your kid to go? Because I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, I coach tennis, and the parents pay a fee for the whole term in advance. Yeah,
that's what I pay for my kids.
So it's a term fee. So per lesson. To be honest, I'm not sure what it is, but per lesson, it's a small amount like that.
Yeah.
But then you add it up over 10 weeks, and it seems like a huge number, but you're getting, 10 weeks of sport.
Yeah, and it's like, then there's the equipment, right? Yeah. So, it comes down, it's very different. Like, you go back to running. Like, running is spending an extra $300 on shoes if you want professional shoes. Tennis, you need a racket, balls, stuff like that. And it depends on how much you want to spend.
Yeah.
Like my daughter...
You can get cheap tennis rackets.
You can go to Kmart and get it for $18. Yeah. My daughter, I mentioned, does acro. So for Christmas, she got an air mat and I don't know what the thing is called. It's a thing to make her able to do flips, right? She doesn't need them. She got them for Christmas. That's what she wanted. But her acro is like, exactly what you're saying, around between $250 and $400. I don't know exactly what it is, $400 a term. It's about $10 or $20 a lesson. And then, we pay it every term. But it's still expensive because of the cost of living. But actually, Chris Burns 9639, this one is funny because I have a friend who I asked about. Try swimming. One season when my kids reach state level, we must have spent close to $10,000, and they're not even elite swimmers, just good. It's $50 per week for training. Then at weekend carnivals, it's anywhere from $6 per event. You can swim 10 events per carnival. If you make state level, they charge you $35 per race you make it in. So some good swimmers could fork out a couple of $100 just to race at state. That's, so one of my friends also, her kids are in swimming, and she constantly has to travel. That's her. She said the biggest cost is the travel to participate.
$10,000, that's... that money doesn't come easy. No. For anyone, John.
No, so swimming sounds ridiculous.
That's a lot of money.
And then Kuyan Dun Robin 1439 has the alternate point. Our local leagues club subsidises our junior rego fees, so it's a lot cheaper to play for our club than others in the same competition. This increases participation and helps parents with financial burden, which goes back to that CKL comment. That's exactly what we were kind of talking about the other day. You want the leagues clubs and the organisations to subsidise these junior things so more kids can play sport.
Yeah, more has to be done to make it, as affordable as possible for parents to get their kids into sport across the board, 100%. Across all sports, including rugby league, including everything else.
While I was doing some research on it as well, I came across to remember this was the reason, one of the reasons there was an issue with was it Gladys Berejiklian, they funded junior sporting associations through government grants in areas where they could get more votes. And that caused a massive issue with all sports funding. So there is funding there from government. It's just how they spend it. But yeah, something definitely needs to be done to make it more accessible to everyone, no matter the sport, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a health issue. We don't want the kids to just be sitting around playing Xbox all day and not getting outside exercise.
That's why my son has to do ninja and he has to do jiu-jitsu, because otherwise he would just play Roblox all day.
So as a parent, you got to make him do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's fair enough. You got to create good habits, and they got to be exercising.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's easy if you're not in a structured sporting competition, and it works well because I'm a tennis coach. It forces me to exercise, just as it does with the kids who I coach. It forces that they got tennis at whatever time each week, so that's sort of forced exercise on them. Just like your jiu-jitsu, it's forced exercise. Or if people were playing in a touch football team, cricket team, whatever, where they play once or twice a week, it forces them to exercise that team sport. That's the beauty of it. If you take that away from people or kids, anybody, it's very hard to self-motivate with exercise and just go out and do it on your own accord.
Exactly.
So it's a huge...
That's one of the things about running as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. He's right. Running is not expensive, bob down. But, I mean, who's going to... Not very few people could just go on their own accord, go, right, I'm going to go out for a run.
That's the thing with runners. I know a few who do marathons and stuff like that, and it's very few. It's a very specific personality, and they all full like raw dog it. You know, they no iPod, nothing. They just run. I'm like, always like, I don't understand how you do it. And they're like, no, man, I just do it. Okay, it's not expensive, but you have to be a weirdo. So on to our favourite video, the overrated players. Now, I don't like this comment. I'm just going to preempt it with this.
Yes.
Philip Taylor, whatever happened to great to champion ex-league players talking footy on these shows, TV and all? Every TV channel has to have women interviewing and hosting league shows. I don't care how good they look or can talk. I'd rather see Brett Kenny or Gary Larson croaking on about the game, Mick Cronin, special guest commentator, etc., etc. Champions who didn't get paid the massive dollars they get these days, but turn the game into the spectacle it is today. Reward these guys instead of blokes who probably played third-grade marbles for Randwick or these women.
Okay, so is he? I'm guessing he's having a shot at us again.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, so I just don't understand the premise of what he's saying, because there's plenty of ex-players who... The issue is there's not enough non-ex-players in the media. Yeah. That there's too many ex-players, and the problem with ex-players in the media, I've said it before, John, yes, they have their CV where they can say they've played, in some cases, 200 or 300 NRL first-grade games. They can say that, John. But with that comes the problem of they have too many friends in the game, and they will never say what they... they don't say what they think often enough, or in some cases never. A lot of them never say what they really think. And that makes for boring television. The advantage of having people from sort of more outside the game looking into it, commenting on it, you don't have to worry about, offending people, upsetting people. You can give an honest view like we can do, John. So I'm not sure what he's saying there. And it's, in all honesty, we got to be fair about this, John. It's sexist what he's saying there. I don't... If women are, if they're making a good contribution, well, they should be a part of the coverage as well, John. And he's just basically said at the end there, these women, as if to say that women should have no part in the game. It's sexism.
You know what this kind of comment is, and it's just stupidity and ignorance. Because just because you're even good at something, right, just because you're a good rugby league player doesn't mean you can speak well, articulate well, or have good thoughts. I go through it a lot in jiu-jitsu, where I know people who are like exceptional athletes, like near the best, like world class, who are absolutely terrible teachers and can't explain what is happening. And I know other guys who are not the best and always get wiped and get beat up on the mats and get beat up in the gym. But when someone asks them a question, they can talk about a specific move with like a lot of knowledge for 3 hours. And I don't care who the person is on the television, to be honest. I have never in my life gone, well, this should be a player. That person doesn't know what they're talking about because they don't play or they've never played. I have while watching commentary and stuff like that gone, man, that ex-player is so annoying and it's so obvious he's just there because he's a friend of everybody. Like, to be honest, I hate Aaron Woods as a commentator. I think he's terrible. And he's only there because all the boys love him, you know?
Yeah, and if you, John, I don't know how much of NRL 360 you've watched, but that Monday night panel that they have, where they had, and I know Paul Kent's not there anymore and left, but if we think about it before he left and everything, John, so you had Braith and Astor, you had Paul Kent, you had Phil Rothfield, and you had James Hooper. Paul Kent did play first grade, but he only played one first grade game, and a lot of people wouldn't be aware of that, John. So he's not really there as an ex-player. He's more there just as a journo. Rothfield and James Hooper are there as journos. On that panel, John, I'd much rather listen to Rothfield, James Hooper and Paul Kent than I would to listen to anything Braith and Astor says.
Yeah, exactly.
But Braith and Astor, he's not worth listening to as a commentator, John. But he has trouble stringing a sentence together.
Yeah, and so that's what I mean. Like, it's just a stupid. That's what I mean. It's stupid and it's ignorant to think like that. It really is. Yeah. So go ahead, man. Go find your. Like, I like Brett Kenny. I like Gary Larson. I like Mick Cronin. Go ahead and find your boys at the pub and have your discussions. But all I care about is listening to things about rugby league or any sport that I watch from people who know what they're talking about. You know, it doesn't matter what their background is, to be honest. As long as their background is they watch a lot of rugby league and they understand rugby league.
And that's the thing, whether you've played or not, like what you say is either accurate or it's not accurate.
Yeah.
Whether you've played or not is irrelevant. You could have someone who's played 300 NRL games who makes a comment about the game that's inaccurate. You could also have someone who's played 0 NRL games who makes a comment about the game that's accurate.
Yeah. There's a funny thing in the UFC right now. Bilal Muhammad, who's one of the contenders in Colby Covington, Leon Edwards division, he was talking about some previous fights, and he said his understanding of them, like it was recent, like yesterday, where he said he thinks in Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman number 3, the third time they fought, he thought Kamaru Usman won. He's the only person in the world who thinks that. Seriously, in the world. If you watch that fight, Leon Edwards beats the crap out of Kamaru Usman. And it's like just because Bilal Muhammad is a UFC fighter doesn't mean he knows what he's talking about when he's analysing fights. One of the best UFC analysts is John Anik. Never had a fight in his life. Not a fight. And he's one of the best analysts there is. So, this is, again, it's just a joke. It's stupid and it's ignorant.
Yeah, Robert Craddock is one of the best cricket analysts there is. He never played a test for Australia.
And, the best coach ever, Wayne Bennett, he only played like 12 games in the Queensland Cup. So, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant the amount of game time you have as to how much you can analyse any sport.
Like judge us on what we say, that's fine, but don't judge us on the fact that we haven't played first grade.
I played, like I said before, I played rugby union in school. I played a lot of sport when I was young. Spear Don said on most overrated players, Latrell and Shaq, the brother. Who's Latrell Mitchell's brother?
Yeah, that one's gone over my head, John.
Shakai Mitchell.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so
if we don't know who he is, I don't know how he's overrated.
He played in 2022. Played 11 games in the 2023 season. So he played 3 games in 2022 and 11 games in 2023, and he's played twice for the Indigenous All-Stars.
Yeah, right. Well, how could he? Someone who's played 14 games in 2 seasons.
Yeah, I don't think he's overrated.
How could somebody with that playing record be overrated?
I don't think he's overrated. He's rated as a guy that I don't know who he is.
Yeah, in defence of us, John, on that one, we've only started doing this in August last year, towards the end of August. So we haven't had a good crack at an NRL season yet doing this.
Yep.
So forgive us if there might be the odd player we might not have seen much of.
Especially a guy who's only played 14 games.
Yeah, we're new to this, and most of the podcasts we've done have been in the off-season.
Yeah.
So,
on to the overrated coaches. talking about Trent Robinson. In the previous comments, somebody said Trent Robinson, then Daylight, then Ricky Stewart. Luke MS4RP replied, I'd like to see how he goes next year, talking about Trent Robinson, but it's looking that way. If they hadn't assigned Cronk or SBW, they probably wouldn't have won one premiership. And he probably should have won another one in 14-15 with the roster he had, but Pearce was made the scapegoat, and it looks like they're doing the same thing to the current half. Who's the current half? Luke Keary. Yeah, Luke Keary. Look, we've gone over this a lot.
Yeah, I've said it before, John. Trent Robinson's coached 11 seasons in the NRL, and he's won 3 premierships.
At 100% strike rate in premierships.
In grand finals, yeah. I can't say that a coach who's won 3 premierships in 11 seasons is overrated. I can't do it.
No, me too.
Sorry.
There's no other coach.
I'm not doing that.
What's another coach that's won 3 premiership in 11 seasons without cheating the salary cap?
I can say that a coach who hasn't won one in 21 years is overrated in Ricky Stewart's case. But I can't say that one who's won 3 in 11 years is overrated. Can't do it.
I can't say it as well. But I think everybody just is jealous of the tall poppy syndrome of Trent Robinson. Strangely, someone commented on the Latrell Mitchell video on Reddit. Weird.
Is that the one that's getting a lot of comments, John, or is that
no? It's an old
really
video.
Old one.
Yeah.
Was that the one you said where? Was it something where we just said, Latrell's, we praised him or something?
It was when we were talking about the time that he was at that event, and someone called up the radio and then whinged about him saying "go away."
And we defended him in this video. Yeah, that's.
But this person's a bit of a. I didn't write down the person's name anyway. Seeing this ad probably come up 50 times now while scrolling, and honestly, here's some feedback. It's bizarre. Here's some feedback for you. Firstly, it's an ad for a podcast, but the audio sounds like it was recorded using a potato from across the room. Why is the quality so awful? Well, I think we can address each point one by one. Then secondly, why overlay loud music over what is already a terrible audio quality? Thirdly, is this the best snippet you could find from your podcast? I have no idea who they're talking about, but it sounds banal and frankly irrelevant. Is it meant to be funny? And then who exactly are these podcasters? You say John and Dan like their household names. Why should we listen to them? On the upside, however, I give you kudos for allowing comments on your ad. So first of all, it is actually a video that was shot when we used that old boom shotgun microphone. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd episode. So we've upgraded our equipment.
Right, okay. So that explained.
That was why we upgraded the equipment.
Yeah.
Why overlay loud music? The music isn't loud. It's overlaid because it's an ad. Like, it's meant to be engaging and catchy. Yeah. This is the best snippet from the podcast. Bro, you're commenting on a 100-year-old ad. That was at the time the best snippet from the podcast. No idea who you're talking about. The video opens with something like, I know that we talk a lot about Latrell Mitchell.
Right.
So who are you talking about? Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah. That'd be about right, wouldn't it? Where you mention Latrell Mitchell at the start.
Latrell Mitchell. Who exactly are these two podcasters, John and Dan? They're John and Dan from SmartB. You know, that's it. It actually, there's a big block of text before it that says why you should listen to them. The highlights are because we give previews and reviews of games. We're unfiltered. We're not linked to anyone, and we give our honest opinions. That's why you should listen to John and Dan from SmartB. Yeah.
John, I sort of don't want to sort of have to go over my background every time one of these comments comes up, but I'll just say quickly, Dan, who works here, obviously works.
He's the lead of development.
Yeah, works with you. He knew me. He put me in touch with you, John. I met with you and Amjad, our managing director. We talked about it. We did a trial, and then we decided to have a go at it. I've got 18 years' experience in the sports media. We were happy enough after our trial to go ahead with it. Yeah. So that's why we've done it.
Dude, you can look me up. I'm at the Half Guard Prince. I'm Instagram famous. I've literally been recognised in the street because of my hair. But it's in the Jiu-Jitsu community. But yeah, and on the upside, I give you kudos for allowing comments on your ad. Thanks for that, bro. We will allow comments on everything because it's pretty funny to address silly people who don't know who Latrell Mitchell is.
There's a lot. I mean, there's people who are commenting. You'd rather them comment than not comment, John.
Last comment for the week is around. It's actually an older TikTok video. It's from December, and we were talking about Pakistan the Pakistan tour being meaningless, and it's stupid that they don't play lead-up games. So Fantastic 1609 said, it's the same for every touring team, excluding the huge series like the Ashes. Exactly. That's one of the things we discussed. The teams come over here, and we talked about it on Monday as well.
That's the whole problem. That's the whole point we were trying to make there.
Like, they need to fix that.
Because if you don't fix that, you're just going to keep getting Australia rolling over teams that come out here, and teams that come out here are just going to be punching bags for Australia. It's not healthy for Test cricket, John. There are a lot of, as I said the other day, there are a lot of Australian cricket fans who enjoy seeing us beat up on whoever comes out. I'm not in that camp, no. John. I want to see I want to see Australia tested out here. I want to see a contest.
It doesn't matter what the sport is. I don't like it when it's a smashing. I always want it to be a contest.
Yeah, well, the last 4 Test series out here, Australia's just rolled the opposition.
Yeah. You went through it the other day. It was 0-0, 0-0.
Yeah, it was 3-0 against Pakistan, 2-0 against South Africa, 2-0 against the West Indies, and 4-0 against England. And before that, India won their last 2 series out here. So thankfully, John, they are coming back next summer. That's something to look forward to, and we've got every confidence that they will give us the competitive hit out that we very much want, because they've beaten us out here the last couple
Unless Steve Smith moving to opener proves to be the masterstroke.
Yeah. Well, we can't rely on England giving us a proper hit out here anymore, John, so we need India to do it.
By the way, I didn't want to put it down. I didn't put it down because it was just a funny thing. You know what I saw this morning? England is saying if Nathan Lyon had have played those last 2 matches in the Ashes, then they would have won the Ashes.
Oh, sorry. Are England saying that about
the Ashes series? You know, Nathan Lyon didn't play the last 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, the Lyon played the first 2 and Australia won the first 2. No. And so England are saying that...
It's so weird.
They're saying that England would have won.
We drew one of the matches, didn't we?
Yeah. So we won the first 2. Another one was a draw, and England won 2.
They reckon if Nathan Lyon had have played all the matches, then
England would have won the Ashes. Yeah, that sort of defies logic, that comment, given Australia are up 2-0 with him in the team in the first 2 tests.
They're still going on about it. It's a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah, what is it, January?
Yeah.
They still haven't moved on from something that happened half a year ago.
You're Johnny Bairstow, bro. Just finishing up the housekeeping, don't forget to sign up for SmartB. To get the tip of the day, there's a corporate box competition for you and 17 mates to win a corporate box to the cricket, NRL, or basketball. And you can also win 2 tickets to Subversion in April, which is a premier jiu-jitsu event in Australia. I'm confirming the SmartB Racing update start date tomorrow. So it won't be tomorrow, but I'm confirming it tomorrow. And don't forget to follow the SmartB app on all social medias. Looking forward to Monday, where we can get some Australia Open discussion going.
Yep. Should be good, John. Can't wait for the Open that starts on Sunday. Looking forward to it. Hopefully the Aussies go well.
Yep, definitely. Come on, Alex de Minaur. Have a good weekend, and bye, Producer Pile.